right, this week has been a crazy one for the Flyers. Gone is former head coach Alain Vigneault, replaced on an interim basis by one of his assistants, Mike Yeo. And in the first few games, Mike Yeo has already started to put his stamp on this team in a number of ways. Yesterday, I sat down with Yeo for a candid conversation about one of the busiest weeks he has ever experienced.
Head still spinning, I'd say. You know, like obviously when it first happened, a lot of emotion, excited about the opportunity, no question, but also a lot of emotion as far as with Mike and AV. And so, you know, I think initially it was just, you know, 1 minute you're feeling great, the next minute you feel lousy. You know, as far as where I'm at right now, I'm just really excited. I think that I'm probably extremely exhausted, but really excited. You know, I know it's going to take time, but I really believe in the group, and I really believe in, you know, what we can get them capable of doing out there. So I've seen some signs, and good to get a couple wins, and it's been a lot of fun.
Can you share with me what that 24-hour window looked like from the Tampa game to you getting whatever calls you got to stepping behind the bench against the Avalanche? Yeah,
well, I'm still trying to reply to text, so if there's anybody out there that I haven't replied to, I'm sorry, I will get to you. Yeah, it was very busy. Obviously, get in the morning, meet with the media, met with the team, and then immediately start trying to prepare for the game that night. So didn't get a good afternoon nap in that day, that's for sure. I had all my stuff with me at the rink, and then very quick turnaround from there. So it's, you know, right now we are short-staffed. Nick Schultz has been doing a great job. Lappy helped us, you know, in the initial game, but as far as planning the meetings, doing the video, doing all the prep work, that's still mainly left up to just Daryl and I. So, you know, you basically go from preparing for a game to instantly evaluating your game and trying to find the tools that you can use to reinforce the things that you want to show.
I know you've been through taking over before, but on a day two of a back-to-back, what does that even look like, trying to figure out what meetings you're going to have, what you're going to say? I would imagine there's an additional conversation of, hey guys, I'm leaving you now.
Yeah.
What is that like for you?
Yeah, the initial meeting in the morning was basically that one. You know, sort of, you know, telling the guys that I believe in them, and sort of what we want to accomplish, and really, like, let's just focus on tonight. And then you get to the rink that night in a back-to-back. In a typical night, obviously, I think that we would have probably spent more time, you know, as far as focusing on Colorado and showing the video, and in that particular time wanted to show a few clips of us. You know, that's what we have to make sure we're focused on ourselves and the game that we want to create. Yeah, it was busy. we tried to give them everything we could to prepare for that game, but I really do believe, and really trying to stress, that that we're going to build a game here that it doesn't matter whether you're playing Colorado, New Jersey. It shouldn't really matter that much. The clips that we show, we should know what to do in every situation.
Given the situation, I know you said at your initial press conference, I can't change anything structurally this week that would probably just drive us backwards. How would you assess the way the guys responded over those, obviously the first two games against the Avalanche, the Devils, and then those last two games against Vegas and Arizona?
The Avalanche game, I thought that the guys really came out hard, obviously scored some goals. You know, like, you could tell that, well, first of all, there's so much emotion, whether it's the losing streak, the coaching change, that, you know, trying to get the guys to understand, obviously, and mentally to stay in the moment. You know, what you don't like about the game is that we scored, and then they scored, and then instantly, all of a sudden, we're down 4-1. It's like the wheels fell off. But what you do love is the way that the guys responded after that. We came back, we scored another couple goals, we climbed back into it. They scored again, we climbed back into it again, and then ultimately, we found a way to lose that game. So there were some good things there. The New Jersey game, you could see that we were trying to think and try to apply some of the things that we're talking about, but obviously we didn't get the job done there. You know, had the opportunity on the flight to Vegas to really have a chat with everybody, kind of say, I know it's going to take time, but we got to attack that game tomorrow. And I was really pleased with what the guys did there. That's a really good team in Vegas. That's a tough environment to play a game. And you know, what I like about that game in comparison to, say, the Colorado game is we scored, we got up, and then at the end of the period they scored. And I think that we came back out and we were able to get right back on it and attack and be aggressive. And then again, at the end of the period, even though we had the lead, they scored again. And I think that earlier maybe we would have folded in that situation, but whereas we came back out attacking, being aggressive, and we were able to get that win. So that was really good. And to get that win in Arizona, I know that's not a team that's necessarily at the top of the standings, but they play well in their structure, they work hard, and that was the end of a very, very difficult stretch for us. So for me, that was a real character win for our group. They had to continue to battle and work. And again, we had leads, lost it, gained it, lost it, and we stayed with it. And I think that's what good teams do.
Why do you think it is that this team was able to find that character again? Because there were, especially early in the losing streak, it felt like there were a lot of games where it was close with a little bit more, it could have broken the other way. And then things spiraled, it seemed like, from there. How did they get back on track?
Well, you don't lose your character, but you can lose your focus, and I think that's probably what it is. Again, focus, confidence, whatever we want to call it. It seemed like those moments were there for us all the time, where, like you said, there's a game that's on the line, and how do you respond to that moment? So clearly, when you're in the middle of a 10-game losing streak, you're not responding. So we've really just been trying to harp on our focus as far as it's all about the next shift and the next play. And if you're sitting on the bench and we score a goal, or if you're sitting on the bench and they score a goal, you have to go out and you have to make sure that you're ready to drive the play. And the other team might have a really good shift. There's going to be momentum shifts, but who is the next person out to go and set things right for us? And that's been sort of a mindset that we're trying to create here.
So a week after being announced as interim head coach, you get your first real practice in here. What is at the top of the agenda for interim head coach Mike Yeo? Yeah,
well, I think obviously there's some structure stuff. There's some play without the puck, whether it's positionally or just even principles that we're working on. We want to be a real sound defensive team. We want to be strong defensively. A lot of our focus has been on with the puck. I'm a firm believer that. You want to be good defensively. You can't just defend all the time, and that's what we feel like we've been sort of caught doing for a lot of this year, really. How we transition out of our own zone, the puck support that we have, how we transition through the neutral zone, the puck support we have, and then being better in the offensive zone so that we're not just in there for 5 seconds. We can spend 20, 30 seconds in the offensive zone. Some of those things. Also, I'd say sort of the work ethic away from the puck and how important that is. And I've seen some really good examples from especially from the last couple of games, just as far as that work ethic and how connected we look on the ice, whether we're on offense or whether we're checking and in a defensive situation. So that's been a lot of our focus.
I heard you mention something in your press conference just earlier where you want to see if there's a freeze frame of any part in the game, you want to see at least 4 guys in that freeze frame, which I thought was really interesting because it did feel like, especially offensively speaking, over those past, those 10 games of losing streak, it'd be 1 or 2 guys and then a huge gap. What do you think the issue was there, and what is your approach to addressing bringing everybody together a little bit more on the ice?
It's sort of teaching them what that means, but it's also it's about work ethic for me. It's if you're a forward and your defensemen are going back to retrieve a puck in D zone coverage, and you're gliding back into the zone, that's going to create a gap. That's going to create that separation, and we're going to be slow because of that. So if we do have a successful breakout, we move it up to you. You're basically playing in a one-on-one. We want to be playing as a 5-man unit, so that means you got to bust your butt back as hard as you can to your own zone. So when our D-men are retrieving the puck, now we've got 5 guys ready to break out of our zone. On the flip side, if our forwards are getting up ice and they're forechecking hard, and our D-men are gliding up the ice and they make a play and it comes up the wall and we're not ready to pinch or not ready to come down the wall, then on the flip side of that, that means that we're not connected there as well. So it's really just our work away from the puck, making sure you're not resting while you're on your shift. Obviously, you don't just skate like a madman all over the place, but skating your position very quickly, skating to support very quickly.
I want to talk about the Devils now. It feels like, at least from my end, we've seen them a dozen times in like a week recently, and they've kind of become a little bit of a bugaboo. How do you keep the good vibes of what you've got going over the past 2 games going here, especially against a team that felt like last week you could have turned things around against them? That was certainly the narrative, and then just were unable to do so.
Yeah. Well, I think that, like, you look at the last couple of years, we've had a tough time with this team. And, you know, obviously we're looking at the video right now to try to address some things coming into that game with the approach that we need to have. They're a very fast team. That's one thing. They transition extremely well. And I think that a number of the times that we've played against them, we've sort of just go back and forth. You know, we get a chance, we let them get a chance, we get a chance, we let them get a chance. You know, I think that we have to make sure we do a better job as far as getting to the offensive zone and not being one and done there. We got to hang on to the puck, and now we have to let their fast players try to transition while they're tired, you know, or their defensemen have spent a 20-30 second shift in their own zone. It's a little bit more difficult for Dougie Hamilton to get up the ice to be part of the attack if he's, you know, tired from defending. So that has to be a little bit more of our mindset, be a little bit more territorial, hang on to the puck longer, and again, they've got a lot of skilled players, they got a lot of speed, so it's not going to be an easy task, but one we have to be ready for.
Looking beyond the Devils, obviously you guys have put yourself in a bit of a dicey situation in terms of everybody talks about the playoff picture around the holidays, Thanksgiving, and then Christmas, so on and so forth. That being said, when you look at the middle of the pack in the Metro, when you look at the wild card race, lots of teams across the league have given away lots of points. Is that something that you talk to your guys about at all, the bigger picture here, that yeah, it's 10 games, but the Flyers know firsthand you can lose 10 games and make the playoffs? Yeah,
well, I think what we're trying to talk about is sort of staying in the moment. And if you look at the big picture, it's daunting. And I think that, you know, like what we're trying to talk about with our players, you know, like I'll talk about process a lot, or, you know, process versus results. And so through the course of a game, you know, whether it's scoring a goal, you know, if you just focus on scoring the goal, then you forget about, you know, driving the net. You forget about, you know, forechecking hard so you recover the puck. You know, if it's winning a game, if you're just focused on winning the game, then you're not doing the things that you need to do, shift in, shift out, to make sure that you're focused on those little things and just trust that the result's going to be there for you at the end. And for me, the same thing, this is the message that we had to the group, is we can't get caught up looking at the standings right now. We can't get caught up, you know, looking at what other teams are doing. We have to trust that if, you know, we take care of ourselves right now, you know, if it's a practice day, let's have a really good practice day. If it's a game, let's take care of that game. And you do those things day in and day out, and then at the end of the year, you got to trust the result will be there. Our mindset, obviously, we want to be a playoff team, but we want to first and foremost build a game that can be successful in the playoffs as well. So keep just harping on those things.
I want to go back to structure for one moment. I do recall you saying part of the difficulty of implementing a new structure or system in any way, shape, or form is that when you first try, you think and you're slow. Yeah. And I also heard you say this team currently, part of their issue was they were thinking more than just playing. The hope plays quote I thought was a great one. Now, as you are trying to implement certain things and kind of put your stamp on how you want things done, the team can't really afford to be slow in too many games. So how do you strike that balance? Again,
you know, message probably the same way that you know, Connaughton came to us the other day, and we talked about you know, the game that he brings and some of the things that we want to accomplish as a team, and the way that we want to play. And my message to a player like that, or a call up, or any player that comes in, is we've got time to figure out all that stuff. We've got time to, you know, to teach and work with the positioning in certain areas. You've got a game that you play. You've got instincts. We've got to use them. We've got to be on our toes. And so that's pretty much the message right now. We know it's not going to be perfect. And you know what? No team ever is. It doesn't matter. You're still going to be scoring chances against. There's still going to be goals against. You know, it's that mindset of going back out there, being aggressive, and, you know, and again, just all of us trying to focus on building that game, building those habits, and when that happens, you start to really develop a trust in each other and sort of a swagger as a team, and that's what we want to accomplish here.
I want to ask more about you here to wrap up. I know when you sat down, I was talking to you about how your week had gone. You said it's mixed emotions. Obviously, it's sad to see Alain Vigneault go and Michelle Therrien go, and I know you spoke so highly of them and how they've treated you and put this team together and prepared everyone. but also that mix of excitement of being able to put your stamp on things here a little bit. What is the approach for you from your position here? We've seen you take over before. We've seen you have success after taking over as an interim head coach before, against Chuck Fletcher's team before. How is it for you when you look at yourself as an individual in this situation?
Yeah, you know what, like I think I've been a part of it in bad ways too, unfortunately, but one of the lessons that I've learned is just how important it is to be yourself. And so that's what I'm trying to do right now. Like, I think that what the players need is for us to give them direction. What they need is for us to show faith in them and have a plan and provide that plan. But I think the communication part, I think, is going to be really important as far as individually making sure we get everybody on top of their game, individually making sure we get each individual bought into the way that we want to play the game. So I almost feel like nothing has changed from a week ago, except that I'm sort of running the forwards and running more meetings than I was before, just because who I was last week is the way I'm trying to approach it right now. I just want to be myself and be open and honest with the players.